Lovesick Brazilians are turning to magic to get their partners back as the country grapples with one of the world's fastest rising divorce rates. Witches thought to have magic powers guide the heartbroken through rituals such as wrapping frogs in underwear or dipping a chicken's feet in honey. They say it will keep a spouse from cheating or bring back one who left. Some customers say the spells have backfired, making their spouses unbearably clingy. So maybe they wrapped too much underwear around the frog and overdid it. It's time to get right into the show. We know you've been dying to listen to this episode. So, without further ado, we've got really good stories today. We love lining up the celeb divorce stuff for you, the dating news, trends, all that stuff, and questions from our listeners, some of these from our private Facebook group that we think will help everybody. So we select questions from the group to answer for everybody without sharing any personal details to benefit you. So without further ado, we've got a story about Lo and Ben Affleck, one of our favorite couples that we like to follow. Rahul, tell us what's the scoop on Lo and Ben's divorce.
Yeah, absolutely. Benifer, like the kids call it, right?
Yes.
So they finalized their divorce, and their settlement details are fascinating, according to Cosmopolitan. As people know, Lo filed for divorce on August 20th. They listed their date of separation as April. Irreconcilable differences caused the breakdown of their marriage. So according to TMZ, they're each walking away with what they individually acquired during the marriage. So each keep whatever they have, and neither will pay any spousal support to the other party. Ben gets to keep his stake in his production company, Artists Equity, and Lo keeps her own major projects from the time they were married. So what they probably call community property or marital property, where we are. No one knows about their $61 million mansion, though. That's apparently confidential. No one knows, and the terms of that are confidential. So that's still out there as a big question mark.
This is what we call a walkaway, right, Rahul? They basically each take own and they just part ways. Probably figured it was close enough and easier to do that than to try to get scientific and figure out what was going on in there.
Right, absolutely. And they also say here she's officially dropping the last name Affleck.
Oh, so just going to Lo? Jenny from the block, as we used to say, for the older generation.
We should have the duck that says Affleck, like in the commercial.
Yes. Unfortunately, I don't have the audio queued up, but yeah, bummer for them, I guess. How many times have they been together before, right? This is a troubled relationship. Okay.
I think so, yeah.
And didn't we learn before that Lo's worth like significantly more than Ben?
I think so. It's so interesting because we see them in the public sphere and we see her and she's got all these projects. We see him, but he's got a production company that he might not really be in the public space. But I do remember reading what you just said. And I think we talked about that in a prior episode. Yeah.
I think it was like substantial that we were both surprised. And just because I guess I don't know the magnitude of Lo's career. I don't know how the music residuals work and all those rights and everything. And I know they make tons of money with concerts. So interesting. Moving on, we've got this great story from Wall Street Journal about Brazilian divorce. So we're going international now, ladies and gentlemen. Our all-seeing eyes, we observe divorce stuff from around the world and weddings, as you know, for those of you who watch the show regularly. So story from Sao Paulo. This is from Wall Street Journal on Valentine's Day appropriate. How apropos. This is wild. So a broken heart takes time to heal. I'm quoting the story by Samantha Pearson. In Brazil, you'll also need the feet of a dead chicken, some red ribbon, honey, and a pot of glue. Those aren't normally required for a divorce in Illinois, but okay. So lovesick Brazilians are turning to magic to get their partners back as the country grapples with one of the world's fastest rising divorce rates. So I didn't know this. According to the story, Brazil is undergoing a serious spike in divorce rates. And there are some interesting quotes here. Apparently, there's kind of a spiritual movement in Brazil. It says, witches thought to have magic powers guide the heartbroken through rituals such as wrapping frogs in underwear or dipping a chicken's feet in honey. By the way, don't try this at home, ladies and gentlemen. They say it will keep a spouse from cheating or bring back one who left. Some customers say the spells have backfired, so people pay for these spells, making their spouses unbearably clingy. So you can have too much of a good thing. So maybe they wrapped too much underwear around the frog and overdid it. My life became hell on earth, said Josephina, who declined to give her surname for fear of angering the spirits. Also probably fear of total embarrassment in the world because the Wall Street Journal is published everywhere. Okay. Concerned her husband was cheating on her, the 67-year-old housewife from Sao Paulo asked a woman who identified as a sorceress to cast a spell on her man, only to have him follow her around the house all day. Well, he wouldn't leave me alone. It drove me crazy, Josephina said. She paid another witch $50 to undo the spell.
It's sort of like you have like the wish that you make with like the monkey paw, right? Where it gives you like the negative wish that you get. It's like
Trust me, if I found a witch that legit worked, I would recommend all the clients go and do this, because this is a bargain compared to a divorce. And we always say a good marriage is better than a good divorce any day of the week. So I would recommend counseling rather than witchcraft, but to each his or her own. Here is some interesting background, though, where you might say, where does this come from? And it's sort of the interesting cultural and religious background of Brazil. Once home to one of the world's largest slave populations, Brazil is steeped in religions with African roots that rely on magic to invoke spirits, such as Umbanda is one of them. Led by respected practitioners, they combine African beliefs with Catholic traditions, inherited from the country's Portuguese colonizers. So you can at least see where this comes from. So we may laugh because these are foreign ideas to us, but hey, everybody's got their own religious beliefs and things of that nature. So we're not making fun of that. But this is just interesting that this has gotten very popular sort of late. Tech-savvy sorcerers, this is kind of funny, and this is quoting the article, often dressed in the robes of traditional spiritual leaders, teach their witchcraft online or witchery online over YouTube and TikTok to hundreds of thousands of followers. This is pretty popular. Most spells fall into the category of love binding, which is a quote, promising to make chosen targets smitten and loyal for life. Apparently, it's very popular. Brazilians have long been big believers in spiritualism, taking a mix and match approach to the country's plethora of belief systems. Spellmaking has surged in years since the COVID pandemic. So it's actually become very big business in the country. Here's the stat that I was looking for that I wanted to mention. The country's lockdown accelerated Brazil's already fast rising divorce rate, so now you can see where this is coming from, leaving swaths of heartbroken customers desperate to try anything for love. Some 420,000 divorces filed in 2022, a 76% increase from 2010, a trend driven by greater financial independence among women, and a 2007 law that made divorce easier.
Yeah, and it's good to sort of title yourself as a sorceress versus like a witch. For some reason, one sounds cooler than the other.
This guy, his name is Rafael Alves, who's a part-time sorcerer. He's known as Father Raphael the Slick One from the favela. So it's legit. Almost has 250,000 subscribers on YouTube. So I have 22,000 or so. So I guess he's getting the last laugh on me. Moving on, now tied into cheating, unintentional, good segue, was this New York Post story that we couldn't resist. There's a divorce lawyer, I guess, who talked about most likely occupations for cheaters, right?
Yeah, exactly. So based on her experience as a divorce lawyer in Arizona with 15 years of experience, and so she reveals occupations of people, I'm quoting her, she believes most likely to be unfaithful. Brace yourselves, guys. Police officers, firefighters, and people in the military are more likely to cheat because of their ego and the fact that they're around people 24/7. Conversely, she reveals, job roles of the most likely to stay faithful to their partner are accountants and farmers due to their personality types and more isolated career choice. She says she's in Phoenix and she's come into contact with a number of people in these professions that she's divorced.
Not a scientific poll then.
Not a pull as much as, that's what she sort of has experience with. I'm not sure how many farmers are out in Phoenix.
If you're the former spouse of a farmer in Phoenix, get in touch with us. If they cheated on you, we want to know about those cheating farmers, because we suspect that this lawyer is looking at a limited selection of people. We're quoting the story, by the way, when we're saying that police, firemen, and cops have egos. That's the lawyer speaking on her social media post that's quoted in the New York Post.
She said that accountants, again, I'm quoting, are generally more reserved. Farmers are loyal due to how hard they work, and claims nobody ever divorces a pharmacist.
So basically, folks, if you want to have a marriage and never get cheated on, you got to marry yourself a pharmacist, or I guess a farmer. If it starts with farm, you're in good shape.
And she thinks accountants are more reserved. Stereotypical accountants are very black and white people. I think it's their personality. I think she's calling them big nerds, but I don't know.
They're very busy during tax season. They don't have time to cheat, is what the deal is. They're always working on those returns.
The farmers are also trustworthy and family-oriented. Nobody I know has ever divorced a farmer or a pharmacist, for that matter, she says.
That's definitive there. Nobody I know. They're trustworthy and loyal. That's like describing a dog breed. Can't generically disagree with something like that if they've never done it and all of a sudden they're 45 and they start lifting weights. Maybe, but maybe they're just, they want to get fit because they feel lazy or something.
She's not wrong. It's kind of funny the way she sort of states these in bullet points, which we found very amusing.
It's the whole idea that the New York Post basically published a social media post where the lawyer's just spouting off kind of random opinions and just tars everybody with this brush. And the New York Post says, oh, this is a great story. Let's report this. And since the Post can just say, well, so-and-so attorney says it's real, and they can just quote the story. This is kind of where journalism is sunk to some extent. You know, that's like when you see stories where they're just listing tweets. They're literally just saying like, whoa, let's see what so-and-so tweeted about X issue. Because you look at the story, you think, oh, I want to find out, what job categories are the cheaters. And you look at the story and say, oh, she's doing a TikTok about what she thinks. But it was funny. So, all right. Thank you. The next one, we love dating apps, dating advice. So yeah, this is a story from the Wall Street Journal right around Valentine's Day too. And yeah, it's a little later, but so what? Still good stuff. A professional matchmaker offers advice for successful dating. This story credited Elisa Ben Shalom, February 13th, Wall Street Journal. And this is great. We'll kind of hit the highlights here, but this is quoting the author of the story. We all know stories of love at first sight. We've seen them in movies and heard them in love songs. Maybe we even know a couple who caught a glimpse of each other across a crowded room and bam, chemical reaction. And then they talk about like, we hear about this instant love, but it's not really true for most people. People think they're going to have that happen and they're probably stuck being single because their expectations are too high. Okay. Makes sense. The idea that bells will ring and angels sing the moment you meet the right person is something I call Disney dating. I get the appeal, okay, we understand. It's a cop-out. It's a way of saying my only job is to recognize my person when he magically appears. Okay, I can agree with that. Like I just sit here and wait for the lightning to strike. And so this person is a matchmaker and dating coach. They say lasting love demands far more than whatever you see in the first moment. Good point. It can and should be cultivated intentionally like a good habit. This may sound unsexy, but the results have potential to last more than a 90-minute cartoon. Great. Okay, let's dig into the advice. And then Rahul and I will give our expert riffing, as we love to do.
Now there's a lot of pressure.
You'll do fine. Okay. Date him till you hate him. Okay. And I'm quoting the story. I don't mean you should actually hate someone. Just you should continue dating till you're 100% sure this is definitely not your person. Everyone asks me, how will I know? When you're sure, you're sure. If you don't know, you're in fact not sure and you should keep dating. Okay. Some would say this is like marketing or sales. You keep asking until they say no. Okay. Not bad. Let's contrast this with Mike Banovac, millionaire date doctor, who we interviewed in episode 11. By the way, awesome episode, still our most viewed of all time. What did he say, Rahul, about the first date? I thought he was really cool about and interesting about what he said. If you don't, I'm not trying to test you, put you on the spot.
Yeah, no. I think his overall theme was that you sort of know the first date, whether this is going to work or not. He said that first impression is very, very important and sort of sets the tone for the rest of that dating relationship. I was going to say that it's the opposite of really date them till you hate them. Sort of like, I'm just going to keep dating this person for the rest of my life. I don't know if I hate them yet. I'm going to keep dating. You're basically married to someone until you get divorced, right? That's what they're saying.
What he said, there was a catchphrase he said that I still remember because it was really memorable. And he said, the purpose of the first date is to see if there should be a second date. He basically said no more than that. So don't put any more weight in it or stock in it, sort of similar to what this person's saying. But I think Mike would say, if it doesn't go well the first time, it's probably not for you. You're probably not going to find some magic there. Not that there's going to be birds singing and, music playing, but you're going to know in the first 5 or 10 minutes, probably, if this person is interesting to you and worth talking to more. So I don't know if I agree with date him till you hate him. Like you're suggesting, it's like, that sounds like going overboard. But if you're feeling good enough about it, keep dating till you don't like it, And this is a good point. She says, when done right, dating is simply gathering information. It's kind of an extended interview process. That's a two-way street. Next tip. This usually raises eyebrows, but try to avoid physical intimacy for the first 5 dates. That's a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Love may or may not be blind, but touch is certainly blinding. Introducing it too early can trick you into thinking there's a relationship that doesn't exist yet. I've seen physical chemistry lead too many people to ignore red flags or even basic incompatibility because their bodies are already off and running. That's not bad advice. I don't know if 5 is magical, but she's pretty much saying wait for a good bit until you're sure. The quote she says is, how will I know if it works in the bedroom? If I don't, try it out. I've been asked this question a lot of times. She said, going to bed with someone you're just getting to know is like reading the 3rd page of a novel. It's like going to the middle chapter or maybe a couple chapters in. This is a quote. You might enjoy it, but it's nothing compared to the last chapter after you spent hours investing in the characters, getting swept up by the plot. I think for adults, they know where they stand with this, and you're just going to have to know if you're comfortable with this or not and try to differentiate the feelings of the sexual encounter versus your head and your emotions. So I think some weighting makes sense. This is one of those your mileage may vary things. Most people will be happy to respect your boundaries if you communicate them with kindness and courtesy. If someone pushes back, this is about the 5 dates thing. That'll tell you a lot about their character. Well, okay. Yeah, I could see that. I don't know about 5, though. You may have some dudes skipping out. I don't know. I'm not commenting further for fear of getting into extensive trouble. Intentional intimacy sounds like my next album. My clients typically assume chemistry, this is a quote, should be instantaneous and effortless. My job is to disabuse them, to let them know chemistry is actually something they can activate for themselves.
I think that, again, chemistry is sort of like when you put two chemicals, it'll start creating a reaction immediately. That should happen. There should be some level. Now, you're not going to have the same sort of chemistry you have if you really get along with someone after 5 dates using their number as you would after the first one. But that sort of chemistry should be there. If there's no chemistry there right away and you're kind of bored, you're sort of like, all right, well, sure, I got nothing else to do. I guess I'll do it. So there's got to be some chemistry right away.
What she's saying that I will agree with is a little later in the blurb. She's talking about you can't just sort of sit there and be passive and expect the other person to do all the work. So she's saying you can generate sparks yourself and to start the so-called fire. So instead of waiting for them, you can try to light them. So she gives some advice like put away your phone. I mean, this is just great advice talking to friends and family. Don't look at it all during a date. Look your date in the eyes, address them by name, ask questions. Yeah, this is good basic dating advice. It's good advice to communicate with anybody in business or social life. So put in some effort is what she's saying.
Well, that, and also I think your phone is more interesting than the person in front of you that you have a need. Because if you're in that zone, you're talking to someone, you're sort of forgetting about everything else. You're in that moment, you're talking to them, saying, you have to make an effort to talk to them. You've got to be funny. You've got to create the spark. Well, yes, but sometimes that tells you everything you need to know. Hey, I'd rather look at my phone and text someone else who's not here versus being here. I think that might tell you, or maybe that's something you need to work on yourself because your phone is the most important thing for you and nobody is going to be there who is going to be more interesting to you than your phone.
It's like a pathology. My wife will go out on a date and we look over and there's a couple both on their phones and it's date night for them. It's a Friday or Saturday. They're at a nice restaurant. It's like, you guys are killing the vibe right now. What possibly are you doing on your phone? But people are like addicted to the things and we all get it. But being intentional about the date, being participatory. And then one line I've heard many times is to be interesting, you have to be interested. To be an interesting person, it means you're kind of inquisitive, you ask questions. And one of the tips I gave my boys when they were starting to date was, my sons are adults now, but they said, well, what do I do on a date? Just ask questions. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. Start asking questions and you'll create a conversation out of thin air.
And if you need to think of questions ahead of time, make notes of them in your head. Don't put it on your phone so you have to keep looking at your phone.
Then she says, many of my clients seem to assume it's better to be aloof instead of vulnerable, that they should play hard to get. That's a dangerous game to play. If you're that precious, people are going to stop pursuing you because they find it annoying and ridiculous that you're so into yourself that you're not worth pursuing. So you have to watch that. The hard to get game is a little fun and then it gets real tiresome, especially for adults. Okay, this one, splitting the bill splits the connection. Oh, this one's real, I'm sure, controversial. Call me old-fashioned. I think one person should cover the bill, whether it's $1 or $100. Don't go on a $1 date, guys. Paying for someone communicates your investment in them. You value their time and company. Well, I just had a business breakfast yesterday and we fought over the bill and the other guy paid it. It's a courtesy to cover the bill. And then I said, I'll get it next time. With dating, I think the guy should pay, even if the lady has a job. I just kind of like doing that. But if somebody insists, I think a polite way to work your way out of it is to say, I'll get the next one. Because it rebalances the relationship and you're not just feeling like you're passive. Or you say, look, I'll offer to split it if you're uncomfortable with it. And they say, no, I got it. Then say, I'll get the next one. And then when you do see him again, you remind him, I said, I'm getting the next one. And here's a strategy, folks. You can always tell the maitre d' or the person who sets you up, hey, get me the check.
Definitely don't look at the bill and say, I didn't get fries with my burger, but you did, and you ordered an extra drink, but I ordered a dessert. So you're doing some math.
My other gag is like when I say I'm paying and then I say, I bet you want to go back and order that steak now. Whenever I take my sons out to dinner, my youngest is famous for ordering like the fanciest thing, It's like, well, okay, someday I'm going to order the fanciest thing on your dime, buddy. So that says end the date on a high note. Don't burn bridges. Even if it's not your person, they give you their time and energy. Make sure you thank them. That's just common courtesy. So this is good, though. Anything else?
I thought it's very good. And I think depending on who the audience is, I think it's actually probably very helpful because being old school like we are versus some of the new kids on the block, they probably don't know a lot of these things that we think are obvious or common sense. I mean, it's probably really helpful for the audience, but I'm sure it's not you and I.
Well, yeah, I'm very married. I like marriage so much I've done it twice. That's what I... This one's sticking though. I've got to make sure. Social media, we've called it before anti-social media. We have a love-hate relationship with social. I'm all over social. Rahul is too, for business. And also because we have family and friends on there. But I really try to limit my use of it. I tend to put out a lot of content, but I try not to just mindlessly scroll. What's happened with younger people is they live on their phones and they snap each other rather than go meet each other. And so they don't learn the art of conversation as well. And dating is like a foreign language, which I am old enough to have dated in high school, the old fashioned way, like go to a theater with a girl and go out to dinner, at 15, 16 years old, learn how to navigate this stuff socially. And we've got a lot of people, I think, don't even date in college. They sort of hang out in gaggles and they have hookups. We read about hookup culture and stuff, but haven't really gone on dates one-to-one, not gaggles of like 4 girls and 3 guys or whatever. It's actual one-to-one, spend 3 hours with somebody. People like freak out. What am I going to do in 3 hours with this person?
What am I going to talk about?
And so I think it's sort of getting to be a lost art, which is probably why there's a rise in these dating coaches and dating experts, because nobody's parents even know how to teach them these things. And we see a rise in dating apps too. So I read some stat, I wish I had it for the show, that some high percentage of women have never been like approached by a man in public. It's like 29%, some huge number that blew my mind. And what they said was the rise of social media, the fear that the men have they'll be rejected. We're much more impersonal in public than we used to be. There's sort of a breakdown in community they talk about in general, and they kind of address all these things and say this is a real concern. And I can tell you that my kids have told me, like, you don't just go up to a girl in a bar. They say, like, you don't do that. And it almost reminds me of the thing where people will say, well, you don't just call somebody, you text them first and you ask them. And then you can call them. We've gotten to this weird thing where, if you're afraid to go talk to somebody in public, that's kind of a sad state of affairs,
And you don't know. I mean, they probably want to be talked to. People have these rules that say, oh, you're not supposed to talk to them in public. That's embarrassing. You're going to embarrass us.
When I was a kid, one of my dad's dating advice was go talk to girls, say hi to them, introduce yourself. I said, what do I say? Just say hi. My name's Rafe Palmer. Nice to meet you. What's your name? And he's like, that's the line. And you'll know if a girl starts to like you or not right away. And worst thing that happens is they say no. You might get a lot of no's and you get a yes here and there, and it's all good. Anyway, there you have it. Dating advice from us on the show. We're here to help folks. We're not just divorce lawyers. We're also helping you find love. And then, as always, folks, get a prenup.
We want prenup. We want prenup.
We do. Okay. Next, let's move on to Sia and Daniel Bernard. Tell us a little bit about Sia for those of us who don't know. You might think I'm too old to know, but I know about like one hit she has. Saturday Night. What's the name of that song?
This Chandelier a few years ago.
Yes. Okay.
And so she's an Australian singer-songwriter, and she filed a petition in Los Angeles Superior Court, as we all know, cited irreconcilable differences as the grounds for her divorce. She asked that the court award no spousal payments to her husband, Bernard, or Daniel Bernard, I should say. She's also seeking physical and legal custody of their 11-month-old child, Somersault Wonder Bernard. They were married in 2022 of December, small ceremony in a destination, Portofino, Italy.
Destination wedding alert. Rahul and I have been doing this pod for a while. Every time we see destination wedding, we get concerned. We see most of these divorces are destination weddings. So word to the wise, be careful about those destination weddings. We talked at great length in one of the pods about our theories about that. You can check out a previous show.
So it's just very fresh. We don't know if there's a prenup. We don't know any details yet, but it happened. So we wanted to report on that. We'll keep tabs on it, see if anything interesting happens. We'll keep you guys updated.
We always like to do listener questions. Sometimes we get them from our various social media channels. We have a private Facebook group. It's the Illinois Divorce Support Network, our private group, free to join, Illinois geared STG divorce law. In Chicago and the Chicagoland area, we handle divorces in this area in Illinois. So we have an Illinois focused group. We're going to open a nationwide group because we've had a lot of demand. So we're going to do an I Just Want This Done forum, which will be probably on Facebook also. More on that when we launch it. We're going to kind of loosen the restrictions on that. The Illinois group is a lot more locked down. We are careful about who comes into the group, and people can share their divorce case questions and get answers from people in the group. And then also we answer the questions. So we get some really good questions in the group. We're going to focus on a couple that we think have more applicability to a wider audience. So the first one, Rahul, is me and my soon-to-be ex are separated but live in the same house. And I sleep in the basement while he sleeps in our previous, the marital bedroom. He was really upset that I moved to the basement and wanted me to return to our room, but I refused. A lot of things went down negatively in the marriage. He's extremely controlling, will always seize all car keys when he's upset at me. He's done this majority of time in the marriage. I went ahead and bought a car last week when he seized the key again. I guess she means he took the keys and she got another car. I didn't tell him about the car until yesterday. Now he's real upset because he lost his job. Didn't think I should buy the car. He also always tries to disrupt my sleep when he's mad. This guy sounds like a real winner. This is one of the reasons why I moved to the basement. To me, I think it's torture. My question is, do I call the police? Is this illegal? Or do I just move out? We have 4 kids together. We live in Illinois. Okay, this is classic coercive control, domestic violence stuff. Sometimes DV is not physical. Many times it's not physical. It's mental, verbal, financial control, controlling the car keys, limiting access to friends. All these things are classic bad symptoms of coercive control in a real bad relationship. First, before I want Rahul to answer this, but I just want to preface it by saying I was a director of a women's children's shelter on the board and learned all about this stuff. This is classic coercive control. Getting free from this is very difficult, and this woman is going to have to fight to break free. Get counseling. So I'm urging this person, get counseling from qualified counselors who are trained in this, and they can help you get the resources you need to break free, including legal. Rahul, can you give us the rundown on these issues? We've got the key stealing thing. Can I move out of the house thing? So kind of 3 questions here, if you can address these.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go in reverse order here. So first, her question was, do I call the cops? Well, I mean, if you feel like he is preventing you from leaving the house, then you might be able to call the police. Now, if he takes your new car keys, you might be able to call the police. But I don't know if you can really call the police because he is waking you up at 2:26 in the morning or trying to disturb your sleep every night. I don't think that's a quote-unquote crime for which police should be involved. Now, if he is screaming, yelling, you have kids around you, if he's berating you, then absolutely you should call the police. And even if you don't call the police, like you were just saying, Rafe, you could still see if there's a potential for an order of protection, because some of what he might be doing could classify as, like you said, domestic violence, even though there's no actual physical abuse. So it's not just physical abuse that constitutes domestic violence.
One thing worth mentioning here is the police do what's known as a well-being check, which you can actually call one on yourself or on your house. And you can say, look, he's, scaring me and he's yelling and carrying on and waking me up at 2 a.m. I'd appreciate a well-being check. What that tells the police is, okay, he's not punching at you. He's not threatening to kill you, but some negative stuff going on. And they will come over and knock on the door and they'll talk to the guy and say, hey, is everything okay here? And basically it's like, hey, calm down or you might get in trouble. And also the police start tracking this and keeping records. They report the incident. So you sort of get on their radar, which could be useful if he does go off and go too far or it gets worse. And then you call the police and they know you have a history of this and they come running. They may be better able to help or better prepared to understand what's going on if you've done a couple well-being checks. So, and also a lot of people have a spouse nasty to them behind closed doors. Like they're usually careful to not do things that are criminal. They usually walk a fine line and they know they can't hit you. They know they can't do anything real bad because that'll get them in jail, or they know they're going to get in trouble. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to get in jail. So they go right along the line. Well, a well-being check starts to tell them it could be risky. They might want to be careful. And sometimes they're law abiding and they're rule following outside of the household. And this is warning them that you might just call the police, because in the past you never have. Oftentimes he talks you out of it or whatever. You just never have because you always feared they would go to jail. Typically they're not going to jail. They're just going to get a warning basically, or the cops are going to say, behave yourselves. So keep that in mind, and everyone's mileage may vary. So consult with an attorney, a skilled divorce lawyer in your jurisdiction about the family law issues. But Rahul, please continue with the other bits here that are important. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So do I just move out? You can move out. There's nothing preventing you from actually moving out. However, again, your mileage may vary. You really need to seek some legal advice because you also have 4 kids together. What's their schooling situation? Where are you going to go? You don't want to leave the kids home because then he can say you've quote unquote abandoned the kids. And then you're going to have to fight real hard if there is a divorce to try and get time with the kids or custody of the kids, whatever the case might be. So, and you can't really just up and leave with the kids without telling him where you're going, because now he's going to call the police and he's going to say you kidnapped the kids. So you're going to get mired up in all these things. My advice is if there's nothing immediate, pressing, physical that you're scared of, you're just really annoyed by him and it's become so much where it's like now you're just feeling like he's torturing you, then I think that well-being check or seeing if you have enough to qualify for an order of protection, which will then actually remove him from the house and then you get to live there.
They're called other things in other states. They're called restraining orders. They're called domestic violence orders. There's a similar one available everywhere. If you have to go, take the kids with you. There's lots of advice online about how to prepare to run away from an abuser. I'm not saying this person is an abuser, although they're definitely on the edge for sure, based on this description at least. If you leave without the kids and go away and don't come back, you got a problem. The other thing is consider filing that divorce case or the paternity case if you don't have one, because a lot of times the other partner behaves better when they know that the eyes of the court are on them. So when they know that you could run to court quickly and get some kind of remedy, I have experienced in my career, usually these people behave somewhat better because they know they might lose custody or have a problem in a custody case if they keep doing these types of behaviors. Concerned the kids are going to report it to a guardian or the other spouse is going to capitalize on these bad behaviors, as they should, to take advantage in the case. So think about it. Filing a case is better than not having one filed. Here's one. I'm going to summarize this one. This one was about a divorce case where the spouse was watching the inside of the home with video cameras, which is creepy. I'm not against outdoor cameras because you're watching nanny cam on the baby, camera inside watching in the room where your dogs are, cameras outside for your Ring cameras for your doors and public areas to monitor for bad guys. But cameras that are active when you're gone, great. Cameras active in the interior when you're home, creepy. That's my 2 cents. But so this person says cameras inside. And the other issue is person concerned about what will happen with child support and health insurance. So the question is, will a judge insist that my soon-to-be ex put the kids on his insurance? Will that reduce my child support? Will I be able to request he pay for the co-pays because I'm going to have a new financial burden? Can I insist they stay on my Medicaid? Apparently the kids are on state aid. This is Illinois specific. They're on a state health insurance plan. My son's current therapist only sees Medicaid recipients. I don't want to change them, etc. So some of this we can't easily answer because we don't know about some of the details here. Unplugged cameras, told my soon-to-be ex who has access to the cameras, I don't give him consent to use recording devices. He ignored me and plugged them back in. Is this legal? Do I tell my lawyer? Does he have a right to that? Okay. Boiling this down, we have, will a judge make him put the kids on his health insurance? Will it reduce child support? Will he have to pay for all the co-pays? Let's talk about those things. And I'll preface this by saying we are answering for Illinois. Your state will vary from ours in terms of child support. So always seek out an attorney in your jurisdiction for guidance on what the support situation would be where you're located.
Absolutely. And I think that it's also important because the first one, both of these are actually extremely fact specific. So we only literally know the few words that are in this question. So we don't have background of what's going on in this case, anything else. So looking at this regarding the insurance, my initial thought is, and I think this is probably what a court would do absent, other things. I suspect what a judge would say in this case is that the child stay on your Medicaid because of the therapy the child is receiving, not wanting to rock the boat. Now, there's a question of if your child will even technically qualify for Medicaid in the next cycle because now your husband has insurance. So typically, they're not going to extend that to kids. I don't know. It depends, again, on the circumstances, your financial situation. But if it's illegal to have the kids on your Medicaid because he has insurance available to the kids and there should be no reason for them to be on the state, then you might just actually literally just have to move them over because it's just not possible.
And we know that courts generally, in my experience, I've had this happen a couple of times where courts say, I would prefer to have a parent provide support and rather than have a person on state aid. So it's not necessarily the public policy of the state of Illinois, or at least I'm not aware of it. But I can tell you, I've heard more than one judge say, if I can have a dad pay for support, I'm going to do that rather than have the state taxpayers pay for this child.
So that being said, will that reduce your child support? Again, depends on the circumstances. Typically, someone covering a child on their insurance is a reduction of child support as it gets factored in into the state formula below the line. He would technically have an argument that he should reduce it by some proportion. It's not a dollar for dollar reduction. There's other factors that are involved, but it's quite small, especially given the difference in your incomes. And will I be able to request he pay for all co-pays since this change creates a new financial burden? Again, really just depends on the financial picture, what's going on in your case, etc. Yes, you can certainly make that request and see how it shakes out. but I don't know if it'll be successful.
Typically, those copays and uncovered expenses are paid according to your relative incomes after payment and receipt of support. And this is Illinois. Generically speaking, if you're making 60% of the money, the other person's making 40% of the money, you're going to pay 60% of the uncovered expenses, generically speaking. So what about this camera question? This goes into preface this just to kind of give us the state framework here. Every state has different laws about eavesdropping, and what comprises criminal eavesdropping is different in different states. There's another one of these check with a lawyer in your area. We're going to talk about Illinois law here because this is what we know. So she unplugged the cameras, told the soon-to-be ex that she doesn't consent. He plugged them back in. Is it legal? Do I tell my lawyer? Does he have a right to that?
Yeah, you should A, definitely tell your lawyer. B, whether it's legal or not is questionable, like you said, in your state. In Illinois, it's one of those that sort of, I would argue it's not legal. You shouldn't do it, and a court would look at that in a negative way. I mean, it is running afoul of eavesdropping, wiretapping laws. It's running afoul of, Illinois is a two-party consent state for recording, and you're not consenting to the recording. Now, he might argue that, well, it's a security camera that everybody that is there, so if you're concerned about something happening, I'm afraid that you are going to hit me and then tell the police I hit you. So I want that there for my protection, because if I remove that, then I'm exposing myself to you. And what you could do is what he might argue. I don't think he should be doing it. I think you should tell your lawyer. I think you should get some sort of an injunction ordering him to remove that. That's my thought on that.
I would first have your lawyer send a demand in writing that the cameras be disabled. The interior ones. Outside is understandable for security, but they shouldn't be on and active when you're both in the house and you have an expectation of privacy in your own home. And this creep shouldn't be recording things inside. So that would be our suggestion on this. Final question. If I received a small inheritance and that inheritance has appreciated over time, is the appreciated value a marital asset? Great question. We get this frequently. So an inheritance or a gift, but it's very similar to other states. Even if we're in a equitable division state, not a community property state. There are only, I believe, 8 community property states. It's similar with community and non-community or separate property. And that is, if you receive an inheritance, it's separate property. It's non-marital property. As long as you don't commingle it or mix it with marital assets, you're going to be fine. So if you got this asset, this inheritance, kept it in a separate account in your name only, let's say it was stocks, and you let the stocks appreciate over time, that's not a marital asset. That remains, those gains remain a non-marital asset. So no need for a prenup. You can get a gift during the marriage. You can have a gift before the marriage or an inheritance at any time, whether it's before or after the marriage. As long as you keep it segregated, it's going to be non-marital, including the gains. So yeah, thanks for the questions. We always appreciate that. I wanted to wrap up by just saying thank you for watching and listening. We appreciate it. We've moved up. We're in the top 100 podcasts. Yeah, we're actually now in the 50s, which is great. That's thanks to you all listening, subscribing, downloading. So please hit the like buttons. Please subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts and follow us on Facebook. Those likes and shares help keep us going with this show. We don't get paid for this. We do this for you to educate and entertain. And we hope you like the show. Please give us comments. We want to make it great for you. We will be doing more interviews in the future. A couple other mentions. This show is sponsored by STG Divorce Law in Chicago at stglawfirm.com, and also by my best-selling book, I Just Want This Done. You can see it by Rahul. How Smart, Successful People Get Divorced Without Losing Their Kids, Money, and Minds. Available on Amazon Kindle, where all great ebooks are sold. Rahul likes that part. And working on a second book, I Just Want to Know, that will be published very soon. That's about how to decide whether to get divorced. This book is the ultimate guide to divorce. It's spilling all the tea that divorce lawyers won't tell you. Easy to get, links in bio and description. It's a bargain based on the advice that's contained in the book compared to that value. So, and check us out on social media. Rahul, where can we find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn or at Chicago Divorce on Instagram.
It can't be easier than that. At Chicago Divorce on Instagram to follow Rahul. You can follow me at Rayford Palmer on TikTok, X, and Insta. And I'm also on LinkedIn too. You can follow me there. I'm on all those platforms, and I'm always publishing new content. So thanks a lot for listening. We appreciate it. Take care.